Hello there and welcome back to Big Mouth and welcome to the first episode of Doctor Who Chat. This is where I randomly talk about Doctor Who issues that I've always had in my heart and soul. So earlier this year, Christopher Eccleston surprised us all and told us that he was actually blacklisted by the BBC after he left, after his one season of Doctor Who. Now, when I first heard Chris was leaving, I was, of course, devastated because he and Russell T Davies did a fantastic job on the first season. And I think we just didn't know what was going to happen after the first season, but we did know one thing, that ratings were really good and the series was in a great direction and there was an enthusiasm about Doctor Who. Russell T Davies made a success of New Who. So it was really kind of no surprise to me when he was announcing he was leaving because I'd been a Christopher Eccleston admirer for a while. I'd seen him in Cracker and other shows and he never really worked on anything long term. So my attitude was, listen, I was always surprised when he was cast because I thought, Christopher Eccleston, wow, he's not going to stay around for long, is he? So I just thought he was there to launch the first series, then he'd go. So I wasn't very surprised. And Russell T Davies publicly was always heaping praise on Chris, saying he's one of the best actors we have in the world and stuff like that. But we know, if you know this industry, that kind of blarney goes on. So to hear this year Christopher Eccleston come out and say that he was blacklisted, that he did have many issues and many battles with people producing Doctor Who. Basically, the issues were with Russell T Davies, Phil Collinson and Julie Gardner. He doesn't really come out and say any names, but we know. And Russell T Davies has said he's not willing to get into a he said, she said situation because he doesn't want things to escalate. So he's kind of trying to take the higher ground. But Chris is deciding now to come out. Now, very interestingly, he did a radio interview the other day. And he spoke a little bit about being blacklisted. He actually said he threatened to take the BBC to court because they gave an interview in the newspaper where they said that Chris was quitting because he was tired. And again, anyone who knows this industry, if other companies and studios think you're tired, they think you're lazy, that you can't be asked, they're not going to give you work anymore. So he said, you need to rephrase what you said because that's not why I'm quitting. So they did. So that's the latest reveal he did recently on a radio show. But we do know he's doing this autobiography, and I think this is going to be Christopher Eccleston's ultimate revenge on those people. Because Christopher Eccleston isn't a diva. He may be hard to work with because he's a union man. He doesn't like people mistreated on the set, being pushed too hard, not having enough breaks. And what happened with Doctor Who, he really was fighting, not just for his fellow actors, but, the camera people, everyone. He felt that was his responsibility. He also said a few months back he never felt confident about doing the comedy side of the Doctor. He didn't think he had it in him. Personally, I think that Chris did a fabulous job creating a rounded Doctor. And I was devastated when he left. And because of that, it was so hard for me to embrace David Tennant as the Doctor. And it took me to the last of the Time Lords when he rises up, when he's that small kind of thing. And everyone's saying, Doctor, Doctor. That's when he becomes the Doctor for me. But Chris Eccleston was fabulous. And that's due to Chris and to Russell T Davies as well. It was fabulous. And, the Parting of the Ways is probably still my favourite Doctor Who, New Who finale since the show's come back. So to hear that all these issues happen is absolutely devastating. I will say from a fan's perspective, I never really needed to know all of this. Chris and Russell gave us a fantastic first series of New Who. It worked. I never really needed to know that there was issues, but we know now. And Chris wants to talk about this because he obviously feels it was unfair that he was blacklisted. And if he feels that way, he has every right to tell his story. And there's no embargo anymore to stop him from doing that. He claims he only just started talking about this situation because he wanted to protect the production at the time. So for me, I was really shocked when I heard he was blacklisted, that he didn't get on with Russell T Davies, because whenever, as I say, whenever you hear Russell talk, he's heaping praise on the guy. So for me, it's really shocking, and how sad, because when he left, there was a lot of ill feeling with some fans that he never does he never does the Doctor Who conventions. He never does Big Finish. He's the only one, I think, who hasn't done Big Finish. I'm not sure if Peter has done it or he will be doing it. I don't know. But I think Chris has been really clever here, because this year he's been doing a charm offensive with the Doctor Who fans, and he's turned around the Doctor Who fans who particularly didn't warm to him because of his he seemed to have a lack of passion for Doctor Who, but that's not true. He had a very intellectual mindset in the ways he was playing the Doctor, and I think he was enthusiastic about it. But I think it's a bit like Clayne Crawford on Lethal Weapon and the problems he had. I think it's really hard to be enthusiastic about a piece when your life's being made a living hell. Now, of course, we don't know whose fault the issues were, whose fault it was that these issues came up. It could be a bit of Chris, it could be a bit of the producers. But basically, in any kind of discourse or argument in life, it's neither one party's fault or the other's. It's always everyone's. But one thing can be said for sure, that without Christopher Eccleston, I don't think Doctor Who would have launched as popular. Russell was always going to do a good job and it would have been popular. But, you know, he really brought in the mainstream fan base, and he was, I still think, the best Doctor of the revival. I really do believe that. So I can't wait to read this autobiography. I've always wondered about his relationship with Billie Piper, because one thing I noticed, even though Billy and David were a great team, there's never that chat, you know, publicly. I mean, Billy's on Twitter, and I think somebody else actually runs her Twitter, but I don't think there was friendships between Billy and Chris, or David and Billy. I just think they were doing the job. And probably David and Billy got on fine, but they probably just weren't mates. And despite what you see in your DVD extras on movies and TV shows, that these people, I mean, on set when you're filming is such a stressful environment, because you've got all this noise, the director's trying to get you to do what he or she wants you to do, and it becomes a really stressful environment, and you do become heated. It's not really the environment for friendships. It's about getting the stuff in the can and getting it done. So this autobiography will be very interesting, how far Chris goes and speaks the truth here. But I think it is a tragedy when I look back, because he could have played the Doctor for 3 or 4 years. He could have been one of the best, longest running Doctors. He could have been another Tom Baker, because he was perfect for the role, and he really did pull it off. Now, he didn't do that alone. Everyone working on there helped him do that. But he's a fabulous actor, and I do think it's sad the way he was treated, and now it's coming out. And this is not going to make... And I mean, Russell T Davies has always had this great kind of reputation. This isn't going to help Russell either, because my respect for Russell has always been up there. But I will be honest with you, he's on Twitter. He's on Instagram. And I used to get excited and start tagging him in videos when I was talking about Doctor Who. And I was talking a little bit negatively about the Moffat era, and he actually commented on the video and said, please don't tag me in negative videos. And I thought that was really sad, because basically what you were saying to me, Russell, is don't tag me when you're speaking the truth. I was bigging him up, but I wasn't being rude towards Stephen or anything like that. I have a lot of respect for Stephen Moffat. Even more respect now watching The Dribble and The Empty Box, which is Doctor Who Season 11. But I think there is a kind of mentality with Russell T Davies, with Stephen Moffat, with Mark Gatiss, who also blocked me on Twitter, but that was because I kept on sending him Doctor Who audition vids. Yeah, he got annoyed with me, so he blocked me. No hard feelings. If people want to block people, they can. At the end of the day, I'm just a passionate Doctor Who fan. Now, on Doctor Who Chat, I want to talk about something else now, and I want to talk about the fabulous relationship between Matt Smith, Arthur Darvill, and Karen Gillan while they were on Doctor Who. Now, I don't think a group of people while filming Doctor Who have ever been that good of friends. I remember Doctor Who Confidential before they took it away from us. Not going into that right now. But I used to love Confidential, and it was a great after show because it carried on the Doctor Who excitement. But I just feel that that was such a great time for Stephen Moffat, and I think season 5 and season 6 were great. But he's even admitted now, from the moment Matt Smith quit, Stephen just didn't feel it. He was saying things that Matt Smith's a fantastic man and one of the greatest people I've ever worked with. Now, for Stephen Moffat to publicly say that about you, that means you must be a nice guy. And for me, Matt Smith took a long time for me to embrace him as the Doctor, because he wasn't David Tennant, and that wasn't his fault, and it wasn't Stephen's fault, but it was so difficult. And I actually started embracing him really from when Clara came on board, and I really started to appreciate his Doctor, because I loved the nuance that Matt was doing with his Doctor then, because he was obsessed with Clara. He's using her because she's a mystery. Really, it's a mystery to help him distract from the loss of Amy and Rory. So I thought that was brilliant. And I enjoyed season 7B, even though a lot of people criticised it. Even I criticised some of the episodes for being underwhelming. It's funny, actually, because I watched The Bells of St. John, and the other one that the Luther creator wrote, the one that everyone slaughtered when they do the singing on the planet. I always really liked that episode. And actually, it's that episode that made me fall in love with Matt Smith's Doctor, when he's saying, "Take it all. I know secrets that can never be told." I thought in The Last Great Time War, that for me, that was echoes of Christopher Eccleston. And that's when Matt became my Doctor. And I actually cried, and I was depressed for ages after Matt left. But this is the thing with Doctor Who, because it keeps on changing and you're always getting new actors, it takes so long for you to get into the new version. And I hope that's the case with Jodie's Doctor, and I get used to this new way and I start to embrace that too. And actually, they've actually been doing some more descriptions on the episodes, and we know what the finale is going to be now, and it seems like a really darker episode, and there's a mystery character called the General or something. So it looks like it's going to be a bit of a climactic finale, and it might leave us with a bit of a question. So that will be interesting as well. But going back to Matt Smith, I think the moment that Stephen Moffat lost his enthusiasm was the moment that Matt Smith left. And you could tell it. You could tell even when Peter Capaldi was there, which is a really good friend of Stephen Moffat's. That's one of the reasons he got the job. You could tell that Stephen wasn't feeling it. He said the BBC made him stay. And I mean, Gattis was talking on Twitter about when he announced he was quitting, Stephen, that he was released from jail or something, which I think was really over dramatic. I don't think Stephen was forced. I think Stephen knew if he quit at that time, they'd probably cancel the show. And Stephen just wanted to protect the Doctor Who IP, because whatever we say about Stephen Moffat, he's a big fan. And his imagination, despite all of our moaning and bitching about him, really gave us so many fabulous ideas, concepts and creatures. So I hope you've enjoyed Doctor Who Chat. If I get a lot of views, a lot of likes and a lot of reactions, I will do more episodes of Doctor Who Chat and just talk about issues that might not be talking points right now, but the stuff that we've been passionate about Doctor Who in the past. Like, subscribe, share the video, share the channel. Let's get the conversations flowing.